the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, third base preview. Let's roll. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show. Quick, I just want somebody to answer this. In 2007, the New York Giants were what to the New England Patriots? Anybody?
Blue. They lost.
They were
the champions. They beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
They were the underdogs.
They were.
And speaking of underdogs, when you use code TRIPLE, Underdog Fantasy will match you up to $100. Free money, that's what we like. Gambling is legal in some states, so I don't feel bad saying that. But now, to introduce our panel, the voice you hear, I'm going to introduce Marte first.
Yeah.
It's Marte, Party of One Tallman.
What's up, guys? Hey, I missed last week's show, but I'm back 110%. I'm ready to go all the way to third base with you guys.
Wow. That's good. We are rolling on puns to begin. LC, aka Little Cheesecake, I'm coming to you next. Give me a pun.
We're in the back seat of the car together, getting to third base tonight. It's beautiful.
Oh my gosh. If only we were talking about second base and I could just say the two of us. But we'll have to think of something with third base as well.
I can't get off of the third base, the metaphor.
If only we were doing
this and I'm a child.
If only we were doing this on Thursday, we could say it's thirst base. I don't know. The possibilities are endless.
I hate it.
But we got a special guest joining us tonight, a good friend of mine, a smart mind in the fantasy baseball community. And if you follow him, he made you some money last year. It's Nick, a.k.a. Nick's MLB Picks. How's it going, sir?
It's going well. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited to be here.
I want to ask you, are you going to be in TGFBI this year? Is that what I saw?
Well, I just responded to Justin's tweet today. I applied for it about a month ago, but I don't write anywhere, and I did 3 guest podcasts here and then a couple other places, so I don't really have a
show this one. We're sending them this official. Right after. You hear that, Justin? Keep an eye out.
Exactly. Justin, just remember, Xander Bogaerts outperformed Ahmed Rosario last year, and that's the case why Nick should be in TGFBI this year. There's no correlation. Just never forget. But fellas, we've made enough puns talking about third base, and we talked before the show. This is a very interesting position. There is a lot of likes, maybe not as much dislikes, but I think there's going to be more discussion than we've had in some of our previous shows. And Nick, I'm going to toss it to you first. Give me a third base that you like this year at his ADP and why.
So just going off of the NFBC ADP, Manny Machado is going to be hard to pass up. Just going off the fact that, he can finish top 3, top 4, and that's not a hot take by any means. And going off of what we've seen so far, he's supposedly going to be able to DH by the beginning of the season, and he'll ease his way back into third base. But even after a quote-unquote bad season last year for Machado, he still had an awesome season. I think he still hit 30 home runs, and so he hit 258 last year. But I think this season he can get up to 280. He can hit 30 bombs, and I think he'll definitely get 100 RBIs, hitting behind Nando and that Padres lineup. So I like Machado a lot where he's going. He's not going 66th in all formats or all websites, but NFBC, I like that value a lot.
Do you worry about the lineup context at all without Juan Soto, someone that a great on-base percentage, whether he hits behind him and drives in Machado for runs or in front of him and gives him RBI opportunities?
No, not really. I really like the Padres a lot this year. And whether Hyun Kim is hitting in front of him or Bogarts or wherever he ends up hitting, I really like that top 4 or 5 of the Padres lineup. So even I like the guys behind him too. So I still think he'll contribute a lot of runs this year.
Manny Machado seems to be a fast starter, and then somebody that picks up a fluke injury in April or May. I feel like he's rolled his ankle a bunch. I know there have been questions in the past about his hustle, but I think he's somebody where if he's playing, this is probably the lowest his ADP has been in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I like him a lot. I initially had Devers as my but I'm a Red Sox fan, so that's a little biased. But I also just think it was kind of advertised how he had a down season as well last year. But if you look at his stats, I mean, he still was amazing last year. So, but I felt like Rafi was a little bit of a layup with his really early ADP. Like if you don't pick him second or third, depending on where you're at, it's not really beneficial information.
Fair enough. Marty, I'm going to go to you next. And tell me somebody that you like in that range. And it's probably somebody I like and whose jersey I might have in my closet.
Well, I want to start off by just going over some third base strategy. I was telling you guys earlier. So with third base, it's probably that and second base are the 2 positions that I'm really focusing on, and I'm making sure that I'm getting one of the elite guys. So with third base, I prefer to get Austin Riley or Rafael Devers coming back around in the second. And if I don't, and I'm getting to my like here, I have 2 likes. It's Alex Bregman or Nolan Arenado. And the reason being, if I do not get one of those top 2, who I consider the top 2 third basemen, somehow Rafael Devers is underrated. Like I think he should be going before Riley. I mean, that's my hot take. He's a plus in everything, even average, RBI, runs, homers.
On that hot take.
Okay. So for me, it's not exactly a person. It's more of just how I'm building my team. It's either I'm going high with Riley and Devers, and if not, I need to get Bregman or Arenado. Those are the last, I think the cliff, they are the cliff. If I don't get one of those third base, I will get one of those third basemen by then. And then after that, the next third baseman coming is going to be a corner infielder.
So Marty, coin flip, Arenado, Bregman, you're on the clock. Who are you picking?
Bregman, just because of his age.
Okay, that's fair. Yep. You know what? I set you up because I have both of their jerseys in my closet, so I was going to go with whatever way you like. I'll talk about Arenado because he was a like for me as well. A back injury ended his season last year, but he's still pretty durable. 144 games in the last 8 full major league seasons. The 7 consecutive seasons of 30 home runs, 100 RBIs did end, but he still finished with 26 and 93. And that included not homering in his final 26 games. But his first half was great. 86 games. He had a 283 average, 19 home runs, 62 RBIs. And overall, he's a great contact hitter, a 14.8 K percentage for his career. I know that does kind of neutralize with the average exit velocity and barrel percentage being in the 39th percentile. But he's someone that just makes a lot of contact with the ball and has throughout his entire career, whether he's been in Colorado or St. Louis. And Steamer projects him for 263, 28 home runs, 99 RBIs. And if I can get that at the 100th pick, I think that's a pretty good value. So I hope that I will be getting a lot of Nolan Arenado this year. He's only 32 years old, and I don't think he's going to see a drop-off just yet. But that's enough of my love fest for Nolan Arenado. Art, I'm going to go with you. You liked Machado. You liked Arenado. But there's also another guy that you like in the 1 through 10 range.
Yeah, we were talking before, and I said, I love Ramirez, but if I don't get Ramirez, maybe I do just sit out third base until Machado comes up. But I was thinking about different draft strategies, and I thought about how Hyun Soo Kim is kind of a different animal at third base than he is at a second baseman or a shortstop. His speed at third base makes up for so much. If you go with a non-speed, like a Corey Seager, if you go with a Yordan Alvarez in the second round, or even if you go with a Riley or Devers, you can get a Kim at a corner infield. that speed at corner infield is a game changer. I think depending on your strategy, Kim fits in a lot of really good builds. His batting average was always very good in Korea, and it has gotten up to about 260 last season here in the States. I think it could go higher than 260, but you're looking at someone who's going to be 15, 30, let's say 17, 27, 17, 30 at 38 steals last season. Those stolen bases are a big game changer in your rotisserie builds because it is so much more above average at third base than it is above average at like a second base or a shortstop. His 30 steals are just that much better if you passed it up in a position like second base or shortstop or outfield early in the draft. And I think depending on a lot of builds, he fits really well where he's going. I think his value is in those steals, but he's also like not killing you on power. Like he's going to get mid-teens home runs, and you don't have to make up a ton with that. He's pretty solid.
Fair enough. I do like the conversation we're having about context because for second base, there's so much more speed there, right? But third base, we were talking about before, there's Jose Ramirez. There's, Michael Garcia if you go in the later rounds. There's Gunar Henderson that will give you some steals. Royce Lewis is a question mark. Obviously Ellie's going to give you some steals, but there's a big hole in his game in regards to batting average. So I like that. I think it's big on depending on how the draft goes.
Yeah, and
go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
Mine's completely off topic. Continue. You stay on topic. I'll remember mine.
No, and that's why I was saying, like in a draft, you can either plan to get Kim depending on where you're drafting, and like just overdraft his position where he's going in the mid 80s, like take him in the 70s or something like that, and use that at third base as like a new a way to offset a different type of draft strategy going. I specifically think of Seager, which we talked about last week, even though he's been injured we just found out he's been injured in the last few days. But like someone like a Seager, who at a position or Alvarez at a position like outfield where you might expect to get some speed early in a draft.
Marty, let me hear your completely off-topic thing.
How many stolen bases do we think Gunar Henderson is going to get? And the reason I ask that, I think we're overrating how many, because I think some people are thinking they're going to get 15, 20. I'm thinking more around 10, maybe 12. And when I punch everything in, this is based off Steamer. So if you go on Fangraphs and you do what's called an auction calculator, they basically crunch the numbers and they turn their projection into a dollar value. So when we look at Gunar Henderson, he's projected to be a $17 player. That's a little bit lower than Nolan Arenado's ranked higher than him, and Bregman's right below him, and he's going a lot higher. And they have him projected for 10 home runs. I know Steamer's always conservative when it comes to rookies and stolen bases. So I just wanted, what are we thinking for stolen bases for Gunar Henderson next year?
12 was the first number that came to my mind too.
He has the sprint speed. His sprint speed is in the 85th percentile, so he could steal.
That's good.
Yeah,
it's true. Where do they have him in the lineup?
Right now, I
guess Ross Recess says leadoff.
Yeah, so I was going to say hit him leadoff. It's interesting. 2022, between three levels, he had 23 stolen bases.
If he can hit 15, 20, 15, 20 stolen bases, then I think he's probably worth his ADP.
That'd be big, yeah.
It's possible that if he hits 260, 270, he'll get you close to 30 home runs, if not more.
Jose Ramirez almost.
Art, yeah. You had Gunnar though as your dislike. Is the lack of steals potentially the glaring reason why you're out on him? Do you just think the rookie of the year rise has given his ADP helium?
I think that it's hard to project that sort of growth in the stolen bases, even though his speed says that it could be there. And I think it's hard to project growth in the power and in RBIs. He did experience I think he hit 209 against lefties last season. He hit poorly against lefties. His splits are
209. You're exactly right.
And so I could see him losing some ABs at lefty against lefties. And I think if you're trying to project him out, even though I think like he finished great and you could project him for growth, but if you're doing a conservative projection of him, he's not that much better than Machado. He's not much better than Arenado. So I think, and you say the same thing about Lewis as well. If you're doing a conservative projection for them and not like projecting superstar jumps, then you're not going to project them as that much better than the guys that we're loving down at the bottom of the top 10, Bregman, Arenado, Machado, those guys. So that's why I had him as a dislike, because I think unless you're saying you see growth in a certain area, like a star jump, then he's going to be similarly valued at the end of the season to guys who are getting 60, 70 picks later.
Art, if this was around the horn and I was Tony Reale, I would have given you a lot of points on that, especially when you got his 209 against lefties. That's like 4 points right there. You're leading in the score so far. But you did bring up a name on there, and that's Royce Lewis, former number 1 pick in the draft. We're hoping that we're going to get a full season out of him. And by full, we mean maybe he plays 75% of games. But the ADP is reflective on it. And Nick, I know that's a guy that you're fading.
Yeah, I actually, and it's really hard to say that I'm fading any of these guys because they're all so good. But just with an investment that
you don't have to suck up. You don't have to suck up.
Just with an investment that early on, and a guy who's torn the same ACL twice, I just have a hard time with it. And maybe it's just the Twins effect, and I just think of like a young superstar hitter. I just associate him with with Byron Buxton, your favorite, Eric. So yeah, I just have a hard time believing that he's going to stay healthy. But at the same time, I picked him in a mock draft the other day just because he fell, and his upside's ridiculous. I mean, if he plays 150 games, he might be able to finish as the first third baseman, just with his steals, his power, his RBIs, run, like all 5 categories he can contribute to.
Do we think? I'm concerned about him stealing. Do we think he's going to? You said he has 2 torn ACLs, right? Is that what it was?
No, he tore the same ACL twice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I meant. So, do you think the Twins are going to let him run?
I really don't know. Marty.
I mean, his teammate Carlos Correa hasn't stolen a base since like 2019. So,
okay. So let me ask you: 72nd sprint speed. What do you think is his ceiling for stolen bases this year? I said 15 as his ceiling. Like that's the most he would get. And he got 6 last year. And I want to check how many games.
Yeah, I mean, you said 15.
I think 15 is his cap. He had 6 in 58 games last year. 72nd sprint speed.
Yeah, I mean, I could say he can get to 15, and that's probably a fair estimate on him. But I think if you have Royce Lewis and he reaches 15 steals, you're stoked.
Absolutely.
My reason I'm not on Royce Lewis, it goes back to the ACL tears. This is his games played by year when you combine majors and minors. 2023, he played 72 games. 2022, he played 46 games. Before then, he didn't play a professional game since prior to the pandemic. 2019, played 127 games. 2018, played 121 games. He hasn't gotten close to playing a full season. And post-pandemic, hasn't played more than 75 games in a season. For me, using a pick, his ADP right now is 48, a min of 15. To me, that's a huge gamble. Somebody that's BABIP was 354 last year, 23% K percentage, doesn't walk a lot, 8.4%. I think that's the prospect's pedigree speaking, and I think that's the second half bias. I'm more than happy to be wrong. I'd never root for injuries, but at the same time, I think it's something to pay him close attention to with your early picks.
Yeah, I also think like context matters so much with these because I say Royce is a fade, but like he's a fade at his current ADP. But I mean, if you're in a draft where you're sitting and it's 80th, 90th pick, it's going to be hard not to pick him there. So like we were talking about before, I like everybody at the right value. So I stole that line from you, Eric. But I really agree with that.
So I'll tell you what, he makes it to the 100th, 11th pick, and I can set the max pick on him. I'll do that. I'll take one for the team and draft Royce Lewis. And Royce is good, but he usually going after Machado in my mocks. I think that's pretty fair as well. Appreciate you, Joe. Marty and Art, me and David ganged up on this person last week. So I'm going to let you gang up on this person this week, and that's Ellie Cruz. We trashed him a lot based on ADP. And there is a very, very volatile profile that he has. I'm going to open up the floor to you both. Just tell us why you're disliking Ellie.
Here's the thing. At the end of if they allow him, even though at the end of the year he was batting, like around 200. Best case scenario is he's going to hurt you. He's not going to do you a lot too much in runs, not too much in RBI, maybe home runs, obviously stolen bases, and he's absolutely going to plummet your average. So I think we're just thinking of this idea of like this possibly 30. I've heard some people think he's going to be like a 30-40 player when he batted 235 last year. He struck out a ton. I mean, we went into the profile itself. It's just too risky. He's a good pick if you're going to be in, if you're going for an overall. Like that's, and this is what makes NFBC different from your Yahoo leagues and everything like that. There's a reason to take that swing if you're in the right tournament. If you're only going to do one, let's say, I always try to think of this, like I told you guys before, if I'm only going to draft one team, I would not be drafting Ellie Cruz because of the volatility. And I'll get the stolen bases somewhere else. I'll chip away at them. I'd rather do that because if he gets hurt or if he gets sat or gets sent down, if he's doing that bad, you wasted a huge pick in the second round.
Marty, let's say you're doing 3 leagues. Let's say you're doing Glarf, TGFBI, and your famous 10-man league. Are you trying to get Ellie on at least one of those teams?
No.
Okay.
I won't have him anywhere.
Okay. Art, Marty brought up a lot of really good points. Anything else you want to add?
I think the volatility that Marty spoke about is exactly the same thing that I'm the reason that I'm staying away. It's just too high of a pick. There's too many much more sure things going around. You never know who's going to get injured. But by drafting him, you're passing up Francisco Lindor at your shortstop. You're passing up, potentially taking an ace pitcher, Corbin Burns, Luis Castillo, Zach Wheeler. You're passing up a lot of really important blocks. And the reason he's going that high is because of the potential that he might bring. He went 13-35 last season in 400 and something plate appearances. Get that up to 600 plate appearances. Are we talking 2050? I mean, that's amazing. At 235, not so amazing. But if you can extrapolate that, it's worth a ton. I do think that there is risk in his profile that he's not going to be playing as much, that he might get sent down. And I think Kim, one of the reasons I brought him up is he's kind of providing a similar-ish profile to De La Cruz, better batting average projection, but 60 picks later. And that's one of the reasons why I like him. If you're talking about trying to like get a third baseman who steals, has some pop to him, Kim seems like a De La Cruz light with a better batting average 60 picks later. I just think it's a high pick to take on somebody who you need growth to be worth that pick.
Me, you, David, and Art and Marty, all of us. I know I said more of us more than once. It's going to be that Spider-Man meme where we're all just staring at each other, and it'll be like an underdog draft, and Ellie will be on the board, and we'll just be like daring each other to take him, and he'll go undrafted. I want to talk about Jose Ramirez, the number 1 ranked third baseman, ADP of 14, 15. Last year, 282, 24 homers, 28 stolen bases. I mean, you love the 2020 upside, but the counting stats went down. Runs went down by 3, but I think what's even more alarming is the RBIs went down by 46 from 126 to 80. And, the Guardians haven't done him any favors. I know we've talked about Josh Naylor as, a sneaky corner infield and first baseman, but they really haven't surrounded him with hitting. I mean, are you guys a little skeptical taking him with end of the first round?
Yep. Yeah, I don't like that Guardians lineup that much.
He's going to be 31 before the season starts. His sprint speed was in the 61st percentile last year. I just think that we see a little bit of a drop in stolen bases. I think the reason it went from 20 to 28 was obviously the increased size of the bases and that you can't pick off twice. But I think pitchers are going to adapt to it a little bit. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some guys like him that aren't as fast on the base pass see a drastic drop.
I mean, he's still going to be above average for a third baseman. I don't think the drop would be drastic enough to make him like an average third baseman, but 28 to like 17 to 20. Yeah, that would stink. But I think I like him because he does provide the speed as a third baseman where he's going. The drop in RBIs is alarming. That's a big drop, and that is because of the offense. And I do agree that they haven't done much to address the offense this offseason as well. I think their best signing on offense has been Austin Hedges so far. It's like their only signing on offense has been a catcher. And go ahead.
So ADP 15, we're all out?
No.
I would say if I had 3 teams, he would be on one of them.
Yeah.
But if you're drafting one, he's not on that team.
No.
I think I might be in the minority among you guys, because I think if I were in a position to take, like if J-Ram fell, I mean, obviously I'd take J-Ram, but I kind of don't hate Ellie that much. And I'm going to steal something that I saw Eric Cross tweeted today. So like, this is if Ellie does not improve at all. This is based off of his rookie season numbers. So through 650 plate appearances, it says 235 average, 102 runs, 20 homers, 67 RBIs, and 53 steals. Like, that's if he doesn't improve at all. And I think that Reds lineup is going to be, I mean, easily a top 10 offense in baseball, I think, this year. It could even be top 5. So I think the downside with Ellie is kind of terrifying. But just to go off of like where you'll have him if you're in 3 leagues, like I think I might not be able to pass up on Ellie. I think I would prefer taking him over J-Ram just because of the offense context and the ballpark. And I mean, is he the fastest? No, he's like the second fastest player in baseball to maybe Bobby Witt. I don't know.
Yeah, that's like 1 and 2. It's just looking at a split. So this is after the All-Star game, or in other words, when there was some film on him and major league pitchers actually started to know what he's good at, what he's not. He slashed 191, 271, 355. So he's got a 271 OBP. I don't see him getting 50 stolen bases. I don't think he'll get on. I don't think he'll play enough early. I don't know if he'll get on. But I'm talking worst case scenario is if he's just middle of the road Ellie, then what? 20 home runs, 35, 40 stolen bases. That's good. That's fine.
I think he's one of the guys that has the greatest ranges of outcomes for this fantasy season. I mean, if his numbers skyrocket, he could be a top 5 player. He could go right in his ADP range, or I could see him being a sub 100 player. So I think that's going to be a guy that we're paying a lot of attention to come the season and looking for next season, especially from a dynasty perspective where his value goes. But we're going to go to the 11 to 20 range. Guys we like. Marty, I'm going to go back to you because you like this guy year in, year out.
Yeah, I do.
Tell us why you like some Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Ke'Bryan Hayes, as always, we're here. No, I love what he's been dealing with injuries. That's been the thing that's not allowed him to be able to consistently get better at his craft. But in the second half of last year, we saw his launch angle improve, his contact improve, hard hit rate, everything looked a lot better. So I'm going to build off that, and he's going to be my corner infielder. I already have him in a few spots. He's not going to be my third baseman. Like I said, at this point, I've already got a third baseman, so that's why I like where he's at. He offers you 50, if everything goes right, 15, 20 home runs, probably 25, 30 steals with a 275 average. He's a Gold Glove third baseman. He's going to play every single day. And I think he's going to continue to get better because even last year he had 15 home runs with the 10 stolen bases, batting 271. He only had 494 at bats. So if you crank that up to 650 at bats, which would mean, in other words, he was healthy, a healthy year, 20, 25 home runs, 20, maybe 30 stolen bases, somewhere around there, like a Jose Ramirez light going, obviously not the home runs, but pretty much everything else there with the average and the stolen bases. So it's just going to pray for him to stay healthy, and where at his ADP,
he's
one of my favorite guys
right now.
It's pretty good.
I think he is one of the cheapest sources of steals that you can get relative to their position.
And with actually improving your batting average, which is extremely hard to do past like the 10th round. Like usually almost everybody you get is not going to help you there.
And it's interesting too, from the stolen base perspective, 10 in 2023, but he had 20 in 2022 before the base path rule was implemented.
I want to say maybe there was like a hamstring or there was something. There was a reason why he wasn't running.
You guys both have broken wrists in common.
That's true. He had lower back issues, so I don't know if that kept him from running. I think that just kept him from doing anything. But yeah, still got the scar still here.
Oh gosh, Art, you're a Cabrian Hayes lover too. Is it the smile? Is it anything of Marte said?
No, Marty's right. I think he's worth his draft position. He's an easy take. He doesn't really hurt you. I think there is growth in the home runs and steals, and health is really, if he had a full healthy season, I'd love to see what he could do. I think taking him there, you're not sacrificing much with your draft. I also wanted to throw one out for Josh Young, who I think could be the potential dynamite pick among third basemen. He is he missed 37 games when he broke his thumb in August of this year. And without those 37 games, he still hit 23 home runs with 75 runs and 70 RBIs for a Rangers offense that is very good. I think he could be a really sneaky, good batting average, 30 home run, good counting stats, potential type of player. And could be jumping up into, I don't want to like he's like a poor man's Austin Riley, I think, at this point. And he's going a lot later. I really like Young.
When you look at his StatCast, it's like you made a bull angry. Hard hit percentage, 83rd percentile. Average exit velocity, 86th percentile. Barrel percentage, 77th percentile. The Rangers have been decimated by pitching injuries, not as much hitting injuries, although Corey Seager did happen this week. And, the prospect pedigree, he was the 8th pick in the 2019 MLB draft.
And he's a 98th percentile sweet spot percentage. So like he carries a high strikeout rate, but he also carries a high BABIP, which has allowed him to keep a pretty good batting average. You see his expected batting average last season was nearly 260 for his 266 batting average. So I think he mostly earned that batting average. I think there's a good chance he could keep his batting average above 250 with good power in a good lineup. I like where he's going. I've drafted him on a few teams.
And I think this is the difference between doing a roto league and doing a points league. That high K percentage, 29.3% last year, 38.2 in 2022, albeit only 26 games. That's going to kill you in a points league. But in a roto, the average 266, giving you some power, giving you some RBIs and counting stats in a stacked lineup, right outside the top 10 first baseman's at the 11th ranked and an ADP of 103. So good call on that, Cheesecake. I like him as well. Nick, we're going to go to you. We're going to go to another young player. We're going to go to a Cincinnati Red, and you're going to tell me why you like Noelvi Marte.
Noelvi Marte is the 2024 National League Rookie of the Year.
Ooh.
So I have that locked in, my little plug. But no, so Noelvi. So what I have basically on him in a nutshell is that he can do something that if he plays a full season, if all three of these guys do, he can contribute in runs, RBIs, homers, stolen bases, and average And Royce Lewis and Jose Ramirez are arguably the only two other guys who can do that. And he's going 100 picks later than them. So obviously his home ballpark is the Great American Ballpark, which he can mash in. The one red flag I have on him is, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but his launch angle last year was 1.9. So that terrifies me. But I think that, I mean, he can easily reach 20 stolen bases. He was a 282 hitter in the minors. And he's just going to be surrounded by so many good hitters in that Reds lineup. And I think I mentioned them earlier, but I'm just in love with the Reds this year. And that's one of my favorite just ball clubs. I think they'll win the NL Central.
Would you marry the Reds if they were a person? Do you love them that much?
I might. Don't tell my wife that.
Okay. Well, this is going to be our first disagreement of the night. Dun, dun, dun.
Hey,
Marty
if you're going to bring up his playing time, he's like the only guy who can play third base on that club. I already thought about that.
Not true.
Well, Art, jump in.
Don't say Spencer Steer.
I mean, so don't get me wrong. I remember Dustin Pedroia used to say when he was going well, he'd call it a laser show. And Noel V. Marte's like laser show. Like when he's hitting well, that he hits the ball hard. He has a great max exit velocity. The launch angle is concerning. I am concerned about playing time. I think it's going to be musical chairs as far as like who's out there among their infield. I think he'll probably get 450 plate appearances, but that's going to be, with Encarnacio Strand getting 450, Ellie getting 450, India getting 450. I do wonder if he's going to be an everyday 6-7 day a week player, or if he's going to be like a 3 to 4 day a week player. And to me, that's where I'm concerned with him. I think he's a pure hitter, and I like him, but the playing time is my big concern.
Yeah, I just my argument to that is I don't think that any of those guys could be options at third base, right? So he's like the main third baseman. I think Spencer Steer played some third base last year, but he had like a negative 16 defensive runs saved last year, or outs above average, one or the other. And I think they're going to narrow down Steer's position and not move him around so much. He played like 5 different positions last year. And I think that Noelvi will be the guy locked in at third base.
They have Candelario too, though. Candelario can play serviceable third base.
I think he'll be the first baseman and DH.
I agree. He'll play mostly first base, but he'll probably steal some third base games too.
I think, unfortunately, I love Encarnacion Strand, but I think he's going to be one of the odd men out as well. And I also think
how many guys that is. You just named off like 7 good starters. Like it's a great. I know, and I see why you love them. But that's for me the plate appearances. I think you nailed it. 450, 480, somewhere around there. And when he does play, he's going to be down in the lineup. Like he's going to be like their 6th, 7th, maybe I don't know, probably their 7th hitter. And so we're not going to see the RBI that we'll need. We won't see the runs that we need. I think the stolen bases will be fine. I think there will be some power. But if someone gets hurt, there's just too many question marks when Brian Hayes is 2 rounds later. And I know he's going to play every day. He's their star. I think it's a really good upside pick. I think you could look like a genius by taking him. It could actually really change your team rather than what I would do is pick someone very conservative that would kind of help me, but maybe not really. So I can see why people are taking him. It's just the plate appearances, man. I don't know. And when he does play, I think he's going to be at the back of that lineup, and that's going to kill his counting stats.
Let me ask
I agree with the location of the lineup, but again, I really think that lineup is just going to be a machine this year.
Let me ask you guys, because I'm on Nick's side actually. So we got a good old 2-2 draw. Who do you think hits leadoff for the Reds?
Who do I think hits the leadoff?
Right now they have TJ Friedl. I don't think that stays the entire year. I think Noelvi Marte becomes the leadoff hitter. I think they have Ellie hit 3rd or 4th. His sprint speed is in the 91st percentile. He hit into 4 double plays.
Friedl have a better plate discipline, and I think he has an increased walk rate. I don't have it in front of me, so I could be terribly mistaken.
I could see Friedl being the starting leadoff guy, but but I think it's going to be Marte for the majority
Marte
of the year.
6% of the time last year. 6% is not a
roster resource has him hitting 7th right now.
Yeah.
But Marte hit into 4 double plays in 124 games last year. He's a table setter. His walk percentage was close to 11% in the minor leagues last year. The K percentage for somebody in their first year at 20.3%, I don't think is too alarming.
Was he at AAA or AA with his walk percentage? And the only reason I asked is because they have that automated strike zone in those leagues, and it's
a mix
completely
of both.
Screwed up.
A mix of both. So it was 10% in AAA in 50 games and 12% in 39 games in AAA. I'm sorry, 10% in 50 games in AA.
He had a 296 XBA. I mean, if he backs that up, it doesn't matter if he walks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He could lead off. McLean could lead off against lefties. Ellie, they might want to lead him off just because they want to.
Roster resource has Ellie hitting 4th. Here's my thing. I think Noel V. Marte has a lot of upside at this pick. And I think if none of us want to take Ellie in the 2nd round, but you want somebody in the Reds lineup that can outperform their ADP, you're taking less of a gamble on Marte at his ADP than you are Ellie at his.
And this is kind of the stage in the draft where you can afford to take a risk, whereas I am really conservative in my first handful of picks, but not at this point.
So Marty looking more like a Tiger and Cheesecake looking more like a Cub as we get closer to the season.
It kills me they got Jake Fraley on the bench.
We're Metamorphics. You guys remember that show where it's like people transform into animals? I live in Baltimore. I'm an Orioles fan. We'll touch on that a little bit at the end of the show because I think we definitely got to cover that.
I've been watching a lot of The Wire lately, so I feel like I've been in Baltimore the last few weeks. But
Marty, we'll have to talk about that off show. But
what a great show.
Off air. The director actually came into our office last week and did an interview. So it's been a couple of interesting weeks. And I'll, like I said, we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But Nick, I want to go back to you for the dislike in the 11 through 20 range. It's Ryan McMahon. I think a lot of us are out on him, but just kind of give me some of your cliff notes of why you wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, so he has a 191 average.
Dislike McMahon? We're doing dislikes? Sorry,
I do dislike Ryan McMahon. Okay. So he had a 191 average versus left-handed pitching last year, 228 the year before, and 229 the year before that. He has a 219 average on the road, and that trend also continues in 2022 and 2021. He doesn't run, 15th percentile in speed. He strikes out like 31% of the time. And, I mean, he's really good in cores, and he's really good versus righties. So, like Marty and I were talking before, I mean, if you want to draft McMahon to plug him in your lineup at cores versus righties, I mean, he's going to be a stud, but yeah, I'm not really going to be touching that.
I have him so many places, and I know that going into it. It's the second base, third base eligibility at that part of the draft, the middle and corner infield. It gets me going. But yeah, that's the only time he'll be worth starting is only against righties and only in cores.
Is it fair to say like Ryan McMahon is who he is? Somebody that hits between 20 to 23 home runs. His home run totals 20, 23, 23, 24 in full seasons. Somewhere 9 to 10 walk percentage. That's where it falls every year. 25 to 30% in K percentage. And then 70 to 85 RBIs.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I do have him in so many places. He's just extremely reliable.
He's very flashy. He's very good at home. He's very strong at home.
He's very durable. He's missed an average of 10 games over the last 3 seasons. So, somebody from that plate appearance perspective just joined. So I'm not sure if he's been, but need thoughts on Royce Lewis at third base.
Well, we discussed that.
You have to rewind it, man.
Yeah, you're going to have to
listen to the pod.
You're going to have to rewind it. But if you're looking for good news on Royce Lewis, you might want to turn to another pod. because you won't find it here.
Yeah, you need a D Mendy here for that. He would have gave you the positivity for Twins baseball.
Yeah, they will give you the real scoop on Twins baseball. But looking now till 20 and beyond, I think there is some value there. Art, I want to go back to you. Who are some guys that you like past 20?
All right, I'm just going to talk about two because I think third base does dry up, and I don't want to like get into too many details on nuances. I think Eugenio Suarez is a really good value. He's going at about pick 275 right now. And I think he's going to have a below average batting average, below average stolen bases, but his power, his runs, and his RBIs are going to be above average. And his RBIs have been consistently above average. And he's hitting in a good lineup. He's going to be the starting third baseman for Arizona this season. I really like the growth of that lineup. I think it's going to be very good this year. And I think he's going to have good power, good RBIs, and really decent runs, and going very late. So as a corner infielder, or even as a late stab as a starting third baseman, if you've taken care of batting average and steals before then, he's going to be a very valuable, very late pick. He's going in the 18th round of 15-team drafts, or the 20th round of 12-team drafts, or do I have that right? 22nd round of 12-team drafts. That's a very late pick, and I think he's you can project him for over 20 home runs and possibly over 90 RBIs. His projections are at 81 right now, but I think with playing time in that offense, over 90 RBIs is not that much of a stretch. This is a guy who has consistently driven in plus runs in his career. So I really like Suarez where he's going. Another person I'm just going to throw out there, Yoan Moncada really finished the season well, and I know everyone's sick of hearing about him. He's been around forever, but he has a spot in the top half of that White Sox lineup, and it's guaranteed. And he hit the ball well to the end of the season. His rolling wOBA was above average to finish the season. His batting average was 280 over the second half with increased power. I think if you're in a draft champion, and you need someone to make sure you get solid at-bats late in your draft at third base or corner infield, Yoan Moncada is going to serve you very well. He could possibly increase his home runs above 20 this season, and I think he might do that with a fairly good batting average, and he's going past pick 450 right now. So I think that's a really good value where he's going. I really like Moncada where he is. Not saying you should overdraft him, but if you're looking at a DC late, Moncada is going to be a really good value.
Art, I'm with you on Eugenio Suarez, not as much Yoan Moncada. Just a couple notes on Suarez. You know, we talked about Josh Naylor having the quietest 100-ish RBI season. Suarez had 96 last year. He played 162 games. He's been fairly durable. He was second in the majors in home runs in 2019 with 49 home runs. You know, they seem to make tweaks each year to changes. It's different balls each year. Even they change it mid-season. Let's say they go back to some sort of happy fun ball. That benefits someone like Eugenio Suarez. So that's a very good late source of power at third base. I'm going to be getting him in a lot of drafts as well. Marty, kicking it over to you. Let me know a person past the 20th ranked third base that's just tickling your fancy.
I don't have him anywhere yet, but Luis Rengifo is tickling it a little bit. Second base, third base, shortstop, and outfield eligibility, which does mean something, especially in your DCs. That's going to be extremely helpful. As of now, he's the Angels everything guy. Where if they need somebody, he's going to play. So
they're playing him. They're playing him.
He's going to play as much as possible. For some reason, I thought he was older. He's only 26. So just for you guys trying to keep score at home, wondering how old he is. But yeah, I don't think he does anything exceptional, but where he's going and what I'll need him for at that time is just a bench bat, somebody to fill in for when one of my starters does get hurt. But he's slated for 626 plate appearances. I had it right here. What do the bat have him for? Let's see. The bat X was just dropped. He's projected for 16 home runs, 12 stolen bases, batting 250. I mean, that's valuable for right there with that the positional eligibility. Not much of a high ceiling, but he's solid for where he's going. And he doesn't hurt your batting average, again.
Marty, bringing in Colt Keith. The Tigers signed him to an extension, hasn't played a game yet. Are you taking a stab on him at any points this year? I imagine maybe a DC 50 like the triple players ball. You get him in, but something where it's a redraft, but you can do waiver wire moves. Are you taking a stab at him?
Yeah, I would. I'm not as of right now. I don't have him anywhere, and I don't want him anywhere. I want to see where he is. I think once he gets second base eligibility, because that's where I think he's going to be playing for mostly for the Tigers. So second and third base eligibility. I honestly, I don't invest too much in prospects. Especially I don't know if he's going to. Does he come up with it? Does he start after out of spring training? Does he get called up right away? Is he going to be their second baseman to begin the season? We don't know yet. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on for spring training as a Tigers fan and as a fantasy player. But as of right now, I am staying away. But hey, dynasty and the future as a Tigers fan, I'm excited for him.
It's interesting. You look at the projections for him. Steamer and the Bat have him in the mid 200s. But the FGDC, which is the Fangraphs playing time projections, have him over 500 plate appearances this year.
Hit me with what's the projections with 500 plus at bats?
16 home runs, 62 runs, 63 RBIs with a 257 batting average.
How many stolen bases?
2. He's not. Yeah.
Even with that, he's not Luis Rengifo. He still misses out by 10 stolen bases.
He misses out on the stolen bases. But it's interesting that there is a projection. Fangraphs expects him to be, for much of the season, a starting player.
There's no reason. There's no one in front of him. I mean, Andy Ibanez. What are we talking about? He needs to be.
Question for the panel: is the AL Central the most wide open division?
Yes,
has been for a decade. If the Detroit Tigers gave a damn at all, they could have been in the run every single year.
That's why I would take Colt Keith. I think it's their. I'm counting the White Sox out of that division. I like the Royals as a long shot. I think the Twins and the Guardians are kind of like fluttering with mediocrity. I think the Tigers have the most upside, and so that wouldn't surprise me if they brought Colt Keith up earlier. Just to. You get in the playoffs and anything can happen, right?
I think the Twins are really good. I think the Twins are going to lead the Central pretty easily this year. But it's not a couple injuries because their starting pitching is held together barely at all.
I'll put on my best David impression. Nah, the Twins are going to disappoint. They're not going to make any moves. At best, we'll win the division and maybe we'll win a playoff game if we're lucky. But the Twins, man, they don't care. They're just okay with being 500. They let Johan Santana go, and it's never been the same.
Touche. On Colt Keith, roster resource has him batting 6th. So for whatever that's worth, behind.
We might have just caused his ADP to go up.
Hey, there we go.
I like to tie Nick into this betting aspect. When Nick and I have made some bets and we see line shift, we're like, we caused this. This conversation might have driven Colt Keith's ADP up. We have power.
The other day, I tweeted about Tristan Casas. His home run total was set at 23.5. And the next day, it was bumped to 25.5. And I didn't bet it. And I know nobody sees enough of my stuff for that to make a difference. But I quote tweeted it and I was like, they're watching.
I think it should be 26.5.
Oh, dude, he's gonna hit at least 30 this year.
I don't doubt that.
Oh man, gosh, we got to stop talking about betting. This is getting my fancies tickled.
It just brought something up. Colt Keith goes. Would you take Brett Batty over Colt Keith? Because he goes after Colt Keith.
I would take Batty only because I don't have any questions that he's going to be playing every single day.
I think he's going to be playing, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the power's already there. It's the batting average and wherever he plays. And I think he'll be at the back end of that lineup. I don't have it in front of me, but I would assume.
I would say Colt Keith.
I think there's a lot more upside with Colt Keith because we don't know what he is. We know what Batty is, and there's power there. So that's why I would take him.
I just feel like if you draft a Met, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
That's a good point.
With the
I mean-
with Colt Keith, when Jeff Passan tweeted the extension, he said that he was likely going to be the starting second baseman, and I feel like he wouldn't tweet that unless he kind of had a plug, you know. And then there's also the draft pick bonus for rookie of the year, and the bonus, they get bonus pool money too for international draft, I think, as well, if they get their rookie of the year is on the opening day roster.
So, but we know that your NL rookie of year is Noel V. Marte. But Nick, who's a guy past the 20th ranked third baseman that you're eyeing?
So I have two. My
Okay.
first one's DJ LeMahieu.
Go DJ. That's my DJ.
So
Go DJ. I had to do that. Sorry.
no, it was warranted, you know. So and he might be leading off for the Yankees right in front of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, and obviously Verdugo could do that too. But I think DJ will get the first stab at that, and then he's older. He's 35, but the last time he played less than 120 games was 2013. So he's not going to steal any bases. So you're not going to get anything there, but he has awesome plate discipline. He could just be a run and counting stat machine where he's at. And he's probably going to bat 250 and maybe even above 250 if he does bounce back. And it's so late to where if he is hurt early on, you just cut ties with him. If he's not the leadoff guy, you just cut him. So then my other guy, and I was a little surprised he wasn't mentioned, but is Michael Busch. So he's at like a 572 ADP right now, and so these are his stats for the minors. So his splits are fine. Hit 294 versus lefties, 337 versus righties. And I wrote down that he was in the PCL, so some offensive stats are a little inflated there, but he hit well also when he was in Tulsa, and he hit 27 homers in 98 games last year. So I'm really, really liking Michael Busch, especially since he finally got maybe playing time. Now he had a really good OPS last year too. And the only thing that I have on him is that he might platoon for a little bit, but again, it's so late that if he's looking on the weak side of it, just cut him or hang on to him or whatnot. But I think he's a really good pick at that late.
Cheesecake, you're the Cubs fan. Yay or nay?
I like Busch. Where he's going, I like Busch. Part of my inherent skepticism as a Cubs fan is that the Dodgers were willing to give up on him. So like I'm like, well, then the Cubs definitely got taken by the Dodgers, right? Because I'm a Cubs fan and we're expected to be the schlubs of every damn trade.
It worked out for Bellinger. I know it wasn't a trade.
It's true. We did get belly off them. They gave up on him. But I like Busch's talent. The only problem that I've heard about him is that his fielding makes it hard to play him. Like he's not a good fielder anywhere, so he's kind of a bad fielder and he plays a bunch of positions poorly. But I don't think the Cubs are overly concerned about that right now, and he could play some DH. I see him. I have a hard time projecting him as a 140 plus game starter, but I like his bat, and I hope that they can find room for that bat for 140 plus games is what I'll say.
And I wanted to mention earlier. So every time I'm in mocks or looking at any kind of rankings, I just kind of look at Eugenio Suarez and just scroll by. But you got me in on him now. You sold me.
There you go, Art. Get a career in sales. My hesitation with Michael Busch, and it kind of goes to what we saw with Matt Mervis last year. Like people were demanding, bring up Mervis, never nervous Mervis. You know, Marty, we saw him at the Arizona Fall League, and that was one of their highly touted prospects. And even with the Cubs in the thick of the playoff race, they seemed reluctant to give him a lot of at-bats. So,
and they brought in Eric Hosmer.
Yeah, and then they brought in Eric Hosmer. Like this is a
in on Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, so this is a guy they traded for. He's not a homegrown prospect of theirs. So even though he is late, maybe he's somebody that I will look at on the waiver wire if I see he gets promoted. But I probably won't draft him. Even I know the power is there, Nick, and it's hard to say somebody past ADP of 20 ranked third baseman that you don't like. Fellas, I want to end the show because we had some big news this week. The Orioles got sold from the Angelos family, and there will be a little bit of a transition time because once Peter Angelos dies, then the minority stake that he owns, 40%, can be sold. But it was sold to David Rubenstein, who is in the top 100. I think he's the 83rd richest man in the world. The ownership group includes Cal Ripken Jr., Grant Hill. I'm going to open it up the floor. And I mean, Marty, I'll start with you because you're the only one not on mute. What do you think this means for the O's and, kind of for baseball and a larger scale?
First off, that it's excellent for Baltimore Oriole fans. I am happy for them. I can't think of anyone who could run it worse than him in every step of the way. Consistently, just absolutely awful. And for the future, I think it's great for the young nucleus that they currently have. I think they have the money. I assume they're going to spend it, lock up those 5, 6, 7 players that they can keep for the next 10 years. And I don't think they were going to do that unless they sold. So I think it's a win for everybody, especially the city and the fans.
Nick, Art.
I think the Angelos sons, the Peter Angelos was a good owner of the Orioles. He kept the Orioles in Baltimore. He was very concerned about keeping the Orioles in Baltimore after the Colts left in the 80s. I don't know if a lot of our audience may not remember or understand how devastating it was the city of Baltimore that moving trucks came in at midnight in the snow and moved the city to Indianapolis in 1984. And when Peter Angelos bought the team in like 1992, there was concern among Baltimoreans that the Orioles are on their way out too. And the Angelos kids who took over from their father treated it like many failed sons of rich, achieving fathers have, and use the Orioles as like bickering barter amongst each other in their battles for their father's fortune. So it is very good that they're sold from these fail sons of a rich daddy and get them to someone who might actually want to run a professional organization and not beat his brother in Daddy Loves Me More politics with the team. That's what I'll say about it.
The irony that it was going to go to his wife anyway. So Peter Angelo is still alive, 93 years old, declining health, advanced dementia. When he passed, the stake in his team was going to go to his wife so she could sell it and celebrate their generational wealth. So the irony that the kids weren't even going to get involved. Art, you mentioned Peter Angelos bought the Orioles in 1993. Guess how much he bought it for?
No idea. Is it under 100 mil?
173 million. Guess how much it sold for?
Billions.
1.725 billion. Not a bad business move. For John Angelos claiming that it's not profitable, you got more money than all of us combined and all of our family for generations and years till the end of time.
That dude was talking about moving them to Nashville like 2 years ago.
I believe me, I know.
He's a pud through and through.
Nick, any thoughts that you have?
I'm excited that the Orioles will finally be in on the last couple free agent starting pitchers. I mean, I had
I hope so.
Seen a lot of guys on Twitter just saying, "Oh, the Orioles are a stud starting pitcher away." Like, no, it was never going to happen with the way that they were restrained money wise. And so now, I mean, say what you want about Blake Snell, but Blake Snell on that Orioles club could be, I mean, they're World Series contenders if they add a Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery. Even though I want Montgomery on the Red Sox, but
I would like Montgomery. Here's going to be my concluding thoughts. I've kind of talked about what I've done for a career. I worked with the Baltimore Sun, which is on the wire, for about a year. And at the beginning of this month, I decided to go to their competitor, the Baltimore Banner. And about a week after I left, the Baltimore Sun was sold to David Smith, who is a chairman of Sinclair Broadcast Group. So that was a big change in the Baltimore media landscape. Obviously the success of the Ravens, losing to the Chiefs, but there was a lot of excitement in the city. And then this sale, which kind of came out of nowhere. So the landscape of Baltimore has shifted a lot in the last month, but I look to the future of 2024, and we have an owner now that wants to spend. He's a lifelong Baltimore native. He's 73 years old. He stepped down from other positions that he's been in or is ending his tenure there. And I think he wants to see the team win. And I think he saw an opportunity with Angelos wanting to sell the team. I think $1.725 billion is more than I estimated that it would be worth. But he wanted to pay the premium, in my opinion, to lock up the young core while he has it. So there's a lot of optimism. And as somebody that works, like I said, for a media publishing company in Baltimore that lives and dies by their local sports team success, I'm very, very excited for the future and hopeful that the Orioles can win a World Series in my lifetime. Oh, gosh, that was so beautiful. I left him speechless. But
I wanted to add one last thing just for eligibility on different platforms, but just checking in on your platform, seeing about Yandy Diaz, Jorge Polanco, and Justin Turner, because those guys are third base eligible on other sites. And then Matt Chapman, I wanted to kind of mention, like if he signs with the Dodgers, I might be in on Matt Chapman, which I'm not currently.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that's worth monitoring those four things.
I think it's good to monitor too. It's January 31st. There's going to be a lot of transactions, whether it be injuries, whether it be signings, whether it be newsworthy announcements that so-and-so is doing well in spring training or so-and-so, is struggling and they're dropping him down the lineup. So, obviously we're putting these shows out, but be mindful of the next month and a half because a lot is going to change.
A lot of injuries are going to be coming out of nowhere. Get ready for it.
Exactly. Turn on those underdog notifications and use promo code TRIPLE for when you sign up for our deposit match. But for LC, for Marty, party of one. For Nick, I'm Jock. D-Mendy will be back next week, but I'll steal his line of we're going to make like a bread truck and haul these buns. Appreciate everybody that tunes in and listens to us.